Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. My name is Ben Mahessin, and today I'm going to be chairing this panel and as part of the Africa and Middle East Capacity Building Workshop series. Today is our fourth session on Africa and Middle East Capacity Building Workshops, whereby I bring on BJ and Amber members to discuss a regional topic in the area of Africa and Middle East. And I bring on these BGA members who are usually experts in their fields to talk about these topics and to create more of a dialogue and questions and answers around this. Today's session is going to be on how a business school can upskill the local workforce and population on AI and digital technologies. We're all aware of how important and how prevalent AI is in our society, but ultimately, what does this mean for the local workforce? Is it good or is it bad? And also, what can a business school do to harness and improve the ideas around AI as well? I'm thrilled today to be joined by Dr. Mark Poulin from Abu Dhabi School of Management. Also joining me today is Masike from UNISA School of Business School. And also Fauzi from Esprit School of Business in Tunisia. Welcome all.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we kick off by further introductions, I'd like to say anyone, of course, in the audience, please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box, and this will be open. And what we'll do is, after introductions, is I will ask those questions for you to our three panelists, and then they can discuss it amongst each other. Okay, so without further ado, first of all, I'd like to ask, of course, the first question, and that is mainly to yourself, Mark, is, please feel free to introduce yourself and tell us about what Abu Dhabi School of Management is doing around AI and digital technologies.
Okay, thank you, Ben. My pleasure. If you don't mind, I'll just share my screen for a PowerPoint just to help me
Of course.
During this presentation. Is that clear?
Yes, yeah, we can see your upcoming slides, so it's not on thing view, but feel free to.
That's fine. I mean, let me just see if I can retrieve this. Another one.
It's quite nice when you see the next slide, so we know what's coming up. There's no surprises.
Yeah, there's not much surprise. Let me get upskilling. Hopefully this is.
Oh, yep, that's better. All good.
Is it better like this?
Yeah, we can see the whole screen. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, so thank you everyone for those who are joining us. I'll give a little brief background to provide some context on why we're taking certain actions, and maybe some can relate to our context, and maybe they can provide some feedback or get some ideas from us. So we're definitely a small business school in Abu Dhabi, UAE. And we're currently expanding, so we've grown quite a bit, and so we're in the growth, and it's a highly competitive area for education in UAE. For those who are maybe not aware, there's nearly about 80 accredited universities in the UAE, and about 100 universities overall. So in terms of graduate school, at one point we had nearly 40 MBAs throughout the UAE, so it's quite competitive. So it's important to differentiate and focus your offering. So that has changed a lot. I've been here now for 13 years, since 2010 in the UAE, at 3 different institutions. So I was in Dubai most of the time, and in Abu Dhabi in the last 3 years. which is a different market, but there's a lot of similarities. And I think a lot of people who know the UAE, the main factor is things are changing very quickly and growing, and they want to adopt a lot of the technology. So you're always chasing after the vision of the leaders and what they want to implement. So it is a little bit challenging, but we're trying our best. So I'm just going to cover these 4 points as an introduction. So just one slide to give you an idea about us. So we're under the ownership of the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And the importance here is every company in Abu Dhabi must be a member of the chamber. So it does give a good access to how we can impact and support the local community. So we can, through the chamber, access a lot of the organizations. So the first accepted MBA that was accredited by the ministry or the CA was in 2013 that we started. So we're just about 10 years old. And currently we have 4 master programs. You can see the MBA, after that, Master of Science in Leadership, Organizational Development, which is one of the main programs. Then Master of Science in Quality and Business Excellence, where there's a little bit less interest now. We're changing that to more operations and supply chain. And the one that's relevant for today is we had a Master of Science in Business Analytics. And this is the one where in one of the offerings, we went more into AI to support the local community. Now, for us, our programs, we need, I think like most institutions, we need to make sure that we have programs that are relevant for the local community and local businesses. We have about 400 students, plus or minus 50 in point in time, about 21 faculty. And our students are all working Emirati nationals, and they work in the UAE, mainly Abu Dhabi. So this gives you a little context of our environment. Like all universities, we're chasing after all the accreditations that are required. So we got some institutional accreditations. The QA was important for us for their quality. AMBAN, MBG, obviously, and now we're a lot into the program accreditation. So we have one for the MSBA that we just obtained, and now we're after the program accreditations. But we're a bit too small to go after CAA and AQUIS. We're not there yet. So there's three parts I wanted to highlight how we try to upskill. I think the first one obviously is one of our programs. So we have a Master of Business Analytics that we were trying to see how we can adapt more for the needs, and everybody knows AI was taking more and more importance. Now, because we are a business school, we didn't want to go into the technical part of AI, and our students are managers. A few of them will be from engineering backgrounds, but most of them are managers, and that's the goal they want to manage. So we put a concentration of AI into that program, and basically it's how they would learn to implement AI within the organization. Most of them are working in government or semi-government organizations. And because of the context here in the region that the government is supporting a lot of the digital services and implementing AI, it is quite relevant to them to obtain these skills so they can have the proper skill set for their working environment. The other part where I think all universities are having to deal with, which is not easy, is what policies, student policies we put in place to for the use of AI in courses. So we did have a few meetings, some organized by the ministry, on how to deal with AI and what they're expecting us to implement or use AI in the classroom. In general, the idea was to accept AI as a support, even to write assessments, but to show them how to do it the right way. And that has been challenging. Some of the faculty don't actually know how to use it well. And I think like a lot of the universities, we use Turnitin as the plagiarism tool. And it does say the AI index is a guide to show if the students have used AI or not. We are trying to train faculty and students on how to use the tools versus prohibiting the tool. knowing that they're going to go in the workforce and they need to learn how to use this to stay competitive. Because I think a lot of the tools that we all see is it does make you more productive or efficient if you do it the right way. So we're more trying to help the students on how to use it well, but we're still learning this. We're still at an early stage. The other aspect that we've pushed a lot is to get closer to the industry, to link academics, industry, and companies also developing software and AI. Is we've set up an AI Management Institute, again, on how to bring AI to your organizations. In the region, there is a university which is purposely for AI, Mohammed bin Zayed AI University. They are a really technical part on AI, developing a lot of AI solutions. So that's close to us, and we're working a little bit, starting to work a bit with them. But we're focusing here on what type of research we can do that we can apply in the local community. So in that process, we did one application in human resource management to predict the attrition rates by using AI tools. So that we use some of the data from a local organization. So obviously with the employees working on that project, it kind of upskilled and made them aware of how they can use AI tools. So that was one of the initial projects. We did some in healthcare. So we're just, again, initial stages. And we organized a few conferences, again, to bring the experts together with academics and companies to discuss the challenge of AI, how to implement them. So we had two of them. We started last year with a symposium in AI in healthcare in Abu Dhabi. And last month, about 2-3 weeks ago, we were hosting a young scientist conference from ITMO University in Russia, and their conference was on AI. So we did have a industry panel bringing representatives from the companies here in the region with the academics to discuss the challenges and what's being implemented and how they're using it well, and to address a lot of the concern that some of the employees are having. Am I going to lose my job, be replaced by robots, and all of these concerns? So that was one way where we tried to provide a bit more awareness, I would say, to the institution. And the last thing I wanted to discuss were the workshops that were going directly through our outreach, where we go definitely in a company and we adapt the training. So we can do this because we're kind of fortunate. We have a program in AI, so we have a few faculty who are experts in AI and who can go and provide training. So we had some at local hospitals, 2 nurses and doctors, with all their data, how they can use their data to manage better. And now we're preparing for one in the energy sector. So again, we're in early stages, but we're trying to do more and more of this. So these are the last 2 points in the future, which we're looking at now. We're analyzing maybe some non-credit courses to complement the academic programs. We don't have many there, and there's definitely a push from the ministries of education to provide more skills for the students. And since our students are working, it's not at the level of master's program. It's more very skill set. So we haven't done that yet, but this is in the plan. And then doing a little bit more consulting and implementation, knowing that we're an academic institution, we can't go in deep consulting, but more strategic level on how we can support some of our students who are also in organizations and are asking for some support. So that's a little brief overview on who we are, what we're trying to do, and hopefully to help the community gain more skills. But definitely it's moving fast, and it's with everything else we have to do, it's not easy to address all these requirements and this challenge. So if there's some comments, or Ben, I don't know if you want everybody to present, or do we start some discussions on what I presented, or we wait till to the end?
Well, so yeah, I can always in the Q&A, there's a question about the materials being shared, and yeah, as long as the speakers are happy with it, we can share some of the presentations, and all of the session will be recorded at a later date.
Okay.
And I guess one of the questions for me, Mark, was more around, you said you were working with hospitals and also HR for, implementing AI. Can you give us a little bit of understanding of exactly how AI could benefit the hospital? Like, I've got ideas of how it might work in my head hypothetically, but like real examples would be, very interesting to hear.
Right. Okay. The first thing I'll say is I'm not an AI expert. So my background is operations and supply chain management. I do work with a lot of data and forecasting and trying to do some what if analysis and get into efficiencies. So I'll kind of say what I've seen and what I know they're doing, but I can't get into the technical part. But I'll give you an example.
Just like the overall, like, it helps with this sort of area of hospital sort of thing.
Like a good example is the one I mentioned about the attrition rate. So some of the HR, and this could be in any company, they have a lot of data on their employees. Times they work, time off, their salaries, increases. So there's a lot of data around each employee. And traditionally, they would analyze the data, maybe some regression analysis or some tools to try to get some intelligence or learnings from this data. So when we did the AI, the difference with the AI, without going into technical details, is the way the result of the analysis of the data, and by looking at a lot of the relations between some data on an individual basis, they can predict more certain behaviors like attrition. So the output was basically a table where each line was the employee name. And for each employee, you had different factors. So which factors contributed which percentage chance of that employee leaving. So the top employee might have a 47% chance of leaving the company within a certain amount of time. And the first factor might have been overtime requirements, which that might have been 22% of that 47. The second factor might be pay, which contribute another percentage. But for next employee, it's a different factors, a different percentage. So at the employee level, they get a lot more information on what is affecting the attrition of that employee, where the traditional tools, they would not get this level of intelligence and details. So a lot of what I'm seeing, what the experts are doing is to make more predictions based on the data you have on what's going to happen with your resources. That's a big area, I would say, which is different than before, where in operations we use some regression, we look at one variable versus another, and we generalize for all employees. But now with AI, we can go at a different level of detail. So now they will also want to look at the success of some protocols that you apply to patients. What's going to be the chance of healing or the sex. So I know there's a lot of research in healthcare regarding what is working, how to profile a patient. So a patient comes and you do a lot of tests and you see different doctors, you might have different profiles or diagnostic on what's the issue with the patient. So there's a lot of work on that. We have one, Dr. Davide, who's heading the scientific board. He worked a lot on analyzing, using AI, X-rays for breast cancer, and is really precise by looking at the image. It's more precise than the doctor's visual analysis of an X-ray. So by looking at the pixels, you could predict more if the patient has a chance of having cancer or not. So that's a very technical part. Some examples that are done. We're not going in that level. We're more on the management, like I mentioned, the HR. So the data, a lot of them is, I think this is way ahead of what they are doing. I think a lot of them are not even doing the basics. Forget the AI. They have all the data, A lot of data might not be clean and might be accurate. So they've got a lot of low-level challenges,
Yeah.
but we try to show them what can happen if you go different levels and you follow these steps. So there's a wide variety of what we see of who can do what in AI, because they don't have the base there, they don't have the training, they just don't have the basis comprehension of data analysis to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everything you just said then, Mark, is the perfect scenario. Like if you have, let's say, loads of time to invest in AI and money, then you could definitely streamline everything from the administration tasks to identifying cancerous cells within the body. But for like you said, for some of the hospitals that don't have anywhere near that level of AI knowledge or digitalization knowledge, what do you think you could? I know it's maybe consulting, maybe going off a bit on a tangent, but for some of the other schools out there who maybe work with hospitals, what do you think could be a very good baseline digital technology consultation help for them? Like, would you say you advise them to, get on their data and then use a certain software to understand different administration tasks?
Yeah, well, for us, I think that the first thing is this awareness and the training.
Okay.
If they don't have the basis, even if you give them the software, they won't be able to apply it. We do, even though it's a master's, we're caught in that between of not making it too technical, but at the same time, they have to understand some complex ideas to see how to use the tools. But I would say the first thing is the employees, they need to have a base training, at least that the concepts and the vocabulary, the ideas. The second step is before the software, your data has got to be clean. I mean, everything's based on data. If you don't have accurate data, it's very hard to use these tools. It's just going to be garbage in, garbage out, And you don't want them to use a black box. It's that they just apply what is coming out of the AI tool. So that's what we try to do. We're more into the awareness that this is the potential, and don't be scared of it. No, everybody's not going to lose their jobs, and someone's got to be accountable. This is the thing: is the AI tool is they can do the work, but in the end, someone's responsible to make the decision. So they need to be accountable. Yes, you might need less employees, but I would say first the awareness to the leaders to see the potential, and that we can show through cases, use cases, then the training, and then data, and then software. In general, I would say that's a general approach that we're trying to do.
Definitely. And you talk about then skeptics and people being maybe afraid of AI. And have you found, within your rough region that there's been a lot of people that are worried about AI and the consequences of what it may have on their job?
Not too much. I think maybe because people here might be more optimistic or more the group that we're having.
Yeah.
They're just more afraid of them not following up, that things are moving too quickly. And they know that it's more another tool and they'll be working somewhere else. They won't necessarily lose their job, but because we're addressing right now a lot of students that are in government, semi-government position that are more secure in their work. But definitely on the private sector, the ones that I know more personally in the region, they're using definitely a lot of the AI tools, especially for types of, PAs, like private assistant tasks, social media tasks, the bots. So they're definitely hiring less. There's more. So you definitely see if you don't get those skills, you might be replaced. So I can't speak a lot for it. I don't have enough, I would say, data points on this, but our students, it's more they're afraid of not keeping up than more than losing their job. They know that it's coming, and the leaders are wanting this.
That's good. That's good to hear that Abu Dhabi's going down that route. And Fauzi, I'm just wondering, kind of on that topic and the idea of being a skeptic of AI. How is that in Tunisia? Would you say it's similar trend, whereas people are starting to adopt it, or are people still a bit afraid, or both?
Good morning, everyone. So first of all, thank you, Ben, for the invitation. I'm extremely pleased to be present on this panel discussion on a topic that I deem extremely relevant today to the management education in Africa and the Middle East. So coming back to your question, I think AI in Tunisia has basically triggered a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of opportunities for job creations. We have seen, especially after the COVID-19, the rise in terms of the number of startups in Tunisia working on AI. So thousands of opportunities, job opportunities have been created. What is interesting also is that in terms of job market, there is a huge demand in Europe. And we see that in the future, Africa can play a leading role as being a hub basically for training the next generation of AI who might serve their local market, but as well as the international market. I can tell you that the majority of our students today who are graduating from AI and business analytics related programs are basically fleeing the country, and they are moving to Europe and in France in particular, because the demand is very huge. In terms of skepticism, I don't think so for the moment. Perhaps on the long run with the rise of generative AI and some people start questioning if some jobs might disappear in the future. But overall, I think there is a very positive attitude. It's an opportunity, let's say today, that AI is creating. Coming back to your questions, maybe regarding the role of Esprit and what we have been doing for upskilling the local workforce in AI technology, I think Mark, he said it very nicely. In a nutshell, there are, I think, four main axes that we are taking on this perspective. First of all, our focus on executive education. So at Esprit School of Business, by the way, we started 7 years ago with 125 students. And today we host 2,600 students. By far, it's the largest private management school in Tunisia. We are member of the Honoris United University, which is the largest Pan-African private higher education network. And we are following the footsteps of accreditations, being member of BGA and ASSB. So going back to your question, I think we have a master in business analytics that has been a real success for us. It is dedicated towards working people, so it is offered online during the week and the evening, and on the weekend in a face-to-face mode. And for the past 3 years, we have more than 150 graduates out of this program. And what is peculiar, what we have noticed, is that besides allowing people maybe to deepen their knowledge on AI, we have seen many people coming from other fields and reconverted into business analytics to AI.
Yes.
For the simple reason is that they feel that the job prospects are enormous. And it's a gateway for some to go to Europe. So I can, later on, I can share with you some examples. We have pharmacists who are coming.
Yeah.
We have people in geology, in different areas, and they are trying to reconvert. Some of them, they couldn't even find a job with their bachelor degree, traditional degree from a public university. And they have found in these master programs in AI and big data, data science, basically a room to reconvert and take another step, okay, for employability. And that's very important. The program is unique in the sense that it has been co-constructed with a company named Business and Decision. It's a multinational firm that specializes in data analytics. And when you co-construct a program with a company, we have learned that most probably that program will be a success because it takes into account not only the need of that particular company, but it is the need of the markets, okay, in AI. So that's why it is very relevant. So executive education was a good success for us. Second is the work-study programs. Okay, work-study programs allows employees to work and study at the same time. So next month we are launching an online master program. It's 100% online in big data and data science. Okay, and this is for an Action Group. Action Group is a Pan-African group in Africa, operating in energy sectors, in real estate, open innovation, financial services, etc., with more than 6,000 employees. So to upskill their existing employees in data science and big data, we are offering them an online, basically curriculum, fully online. Okay,
Amazing.
and what is unique about this program, has been co-designed and co-delivered by both schools, the engineering school and the business school. So as Mark mentioned, the engineering will provide the depth, the business school is the breadth and the managerial aspect. So this is a total synergy between the two schools to basically provide a whole package, okay, and online, where people coming from different countries in Africa. So it's not only a particular country, this is a Pan-African groups, and all of them, they come and they basically enroll in this program. The last one is going back to our Master in Business Analytics. We offer this program in a face-to-face, but in a work-study format. And this is very important. Work-study format, it means two cases. The company might have some employees that they want to upskill. So they will enroll in this program, they will work, and on Friday and Saturday, they will come to Esprit to study. Or they will hire fresh bachelor degrees, fresh candidates with a bachelor degree. They will pay for their tuition. They are employees during the week, and on Friday and Saturday, they come here. And basically, it is an excellent strategy for enterprise today to upskill their local workforce, but also to enhance the retention and reduce the turnover. Because when you keep the employees, let's say, for 3 years, for them, I can tell you, Mark, what the company are telling us for AI and IoT today, keeping an employee for 1 or 2 years already is a great success.
Yes,
Having
yes.
difficulties today, because as soon as the employee gain 1 year and 1.5 years, believe me, he's out, because the opportunities are enormous. Okay. Either inside Tunisia, but mainly in Europe. Basically, sometimes the students even is doing his capstone project and already has basically an employment contract. Yes, it's a huge demand today. And that's why we said that for business school, we often said that we focus on the local market. I think today, when we train our students, it's not for the local only, but it is for international. And that's why our curricula has to have this internationalization dimensions, so that when they go abroad, they will be able basically to compete and to basically get the best places. And lastly, we talk about generative AI. We have done a lot of empirical study at Esprit to understand the impact of generative AI. As Mark said before, these interactions with ChatGPT and AI-driven conversational model, it's a skill set. Our students, eventually, when they will graduate, they're going to use ChatGPT in their work. And we believe it is a long life learning experience. How to interact with this conversational model. Research tells us that when we interact and we discuss, it is a source of knowledge creation. We create knowledge. When me and you, we talk. At the same time, we say that talking to machine is a source of knowledge. It will be a source of knowledge. It will be a source of development for skill set in terms of critical thinking, because students have to learn how to query how to formulate their question, how to reformulate their question. They have to learn how to question their responses, because we found that 60% of our students in a survey, they trust ChatGPT, which is completely wrong. You got to cross-check what it
especially
gave you. And that's a competency by itself. We talk about using these tools in a responsible and ethical manner, which is very important. And that's why we are basically having courses where we teach the students AI ethics for the first time, because it's very important that people understand the applications and the implications, sorry, of these AI tools on their studies today and on their profession tomorrow. So this is basically, in a nutshell, high-level summary of what we are doing, but I believe that the opportunities are enormous today.
Definitely. Thank you, Fauzi. And I think, Mark, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that, because I think there was a question also in the chat there regarding the what AI is going to be doing to universities, and I think it depends how we approach it. And I think Fazul, the way he explained it, this is the right way to do it. If you use it as a tool, and you can have more insights, like the example we have with the attrition, you get into a higher level of discussions and analysis and intellectual discussions, because you see more. It's like you're getting more into data, you see the relations. So as long as you don't focus too much on learning the tool and how the AI is doing the calculation from a manager's point of view, but what are the insights, and you know so you know you've used the tool right, then you focus really on the challenges you can do, and it becomes more and more complex. When you have all these data on it, you can see the complexity of these management decisions, where it's like, the more you know, the more you don't know. And it's a little bit like this. You got to take it as you get more data, you get more, and the discussions are at a deeper level to understand the implications of and the limitations. But if you focus too much on the tools, then yes, there'll be less of the intellectual part, less critical thinking, because I think most of us in the ministries that we're at, they're putting a lot of emphasis that at the master's level, it's got to be critical thinking. The assessments got to be critical thinking. You can't just ask, apply this tool, apply that tool. You provide a context, you provide a scenario, and they compare issues. So you got to use the tool to come to the discussions. So no, if you do it properly, the academics should still have even more place on how to use these tools properly and manage in a better way, and find the real sources of cause and effects. So that's the only thing I want to say on this, is if you use it properly, it should be an improvement. But if not, if you focus too much on the AI tools and the algorithms as a manager, then you're going to lose a lot of that critical thinking, and you gotta marry this art and the experience, the wisdom with this technical part too.
Definitely. I think when you were saying that, Mark, you reminded me of when Google search became a thing, and then people were searching a question on Google, and then they take the first answer and be like, "Oh, that's correct," using, was it even Ask Jeeves or Quora, and then people started to realize that that's not accurate, and then Wikipedia is not as accurate as you think it is, and so you had to learn to think critically and not just take it at face value. And I know that's something with ChatGPT, is that if you ask them a relatively recent or question regarding something quite recent, it goes, I only got information from, I think it's like 2021, I believe is their data. It's actually not as fresh as you think it is. And so people need to think more critically and not take it at face value, which will be probably the next 10 years will be a lot of that. Definitely. And Masike, I was wondering if you could kind of give us a little bit of understanding about what UNISA is doing around AI technologies and digital technologies.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Ben, Fauzi. So from our side, colleagues, let me touch on two pillars: the teaching and learning pillar, and engaged scholarship pillar. So with regards to teaching and learning, at UNISA, our Vice Chancellor has what we call a niche area where, well, they've got several. One of those is 4IR. So what we did at the UNISA SBL, the Graduate School of Business Leadership in particular, we revised and analyzed the existing ICT modules within the MBA program. And we also have what is called an MBL. I think we are one of the few business schools in Africa, if not the world, that offers a Master of Business Leadership in addition to their traditional MBA. So we looked at the existing ICT courses or modules within those two programs and tried to look at what industry needs are. A few of my ICT colleagues and I belong to the only accredited professional body for ICT practitioners in South Africa. It's called IITPSA. So usually what happens, I'm backtracking it a bit. I'm going to come back to your question. I want to give you a bit of a background. The Institute of IT Professionals of South Africa usually holds special interest group seminars and webinars like this. And this is a platform where academics and practitioners meet to discuss the industry needs of the ICT sector in South Africa as applies to various other sectors, e.g., you mentioned, Mark, supply chain. What are the latest ICT requirements in the, let's say, manufacturing sector, finance sector, etc.? So with that type of research and analysis from industry requirements, we then developed two new 4IR modules for the MBA program and two other 4IR modules for the MBL program. So in a nutshell, in answering your question, Ben, we at UNISA SBL aren't necessarily specifically developing AI courses. We're developing what we call convergence of digital technologies, because as you imagine, AI and machine learning are driven by big data analytics, which is a different digital technology. But big data itself needs to be secured. We're talking about cybersecurity and data privacy. So already, when you're talking AI/machine learning, you're already talking about convergence of digital technology. So that's the angle we're taking it on. So to the South African business school competitors here, hey, watch out for 4IR modules launching next year for the MBA program, and for the MBL they are launching in 2025. So that's on the teaching and learning pillar. On the other pillar that I said I want to touch on, there will be more details I think as we converse. There's another pillar called within UNISA called engaged scholarship. This is more community engagement projects. There's a new project that we will be launching in 2024. It's undergoing approval processes. The project is essentially on digital skills in society. And I need to mention the budget. You'll understand how seriously UNISA takes engaged scholarship in terms of uplifting and communities and being relevant to society in general. 1.1 million rands. That's the budget, million South African rands, that is. That's the planned budget. Essentially, in a nutshell, the content of this digital skills in society project is on upskilling unemployed graduates, mostly women and youth in SMMEs. SMMEs is small, micro to medium enterprises. You spoke about, Fauzi, generative AI. I think, Mark, you touched on it. So the content will slightly be on those type of things where we impart knowledge to unemployed graduates that aren't necessarily coming from the sciences and engineering, that wouldn't necessarily be conversant with AI chatbots such as Google Bard, and of course, you all mentioned ChatGPT, there's Bing Chat, Midjourney, there's a whole lot of others for presentation slides. There's things like Keymate, Tommy, and Gamma. There's a whole lot. So we're going to impart such knowledge on digital skills, the tools available, how they can prepare their CVs that are, especially in the South African private sector, that are increasingly being screened by AI tools. Just to give them those basic digital skills. Ben, over to you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what's kind of saying to Mark at the start when he's talking about these really interesting AI and implemented into not so schools, sorry, into hospitals and, you know, for management, HR, is that's of course like almost the end goal. But like what you're saying, Masika, is, you know, great to hear that, like you said, you need to up their digital skills first in order to get that big pool of data, make it secure, and then use AI with that data to further push it forward. So it's interesting to hear how you're doing that in, you know, training up the local workforce. And I was wondering, I don't know if, I think we talked about it a little bit as well, but your Technology Innovation Week, is that something that you're still doing? Because I believe last time we spoke, you were talking about using drones in mines in order to kind of help identify certain areas. And, you know, these are all kind of different digital skills. I don't want to go too off topic, but do you have any more specific examples on, you know, maybe some farmers giving them digital skills and what was the output of it?
Yeah, as UNISA SBL specifically, we're not directly involved with that type of projects, but I know that colleagues at UNISA CSET, College of Science, Engineering and Technology, are doing that. But with regards to what you touched on, Technology Innovation Week, this is part of the 2 new 4IR modules in the MBA programs I'm referring to, that there's going to be in 2024 what we refer to as a Technology Innovation Week, where our MBA and MBL students will be coming on campus and virtually to let's call it network with fellow practitioners. And basically what's happening is that where UNISA SBL is located, the area is called Midrand. It's almost the new economic hub of Johannesburg, so to speak. So a lot of private sector companies are moving their headquarters to Waterfall City in Midrand. So this Technology Innovation Week will form part of the events, networking events, where we will be inviting these captains of industry as well as these private sector organizations that are increasingly moving into the Midrand area of Johannesburg. So in a nutshell, it's not something that's happening already. It's something that's planned as part of launching these 2 new 4IR modules in the academic year of 2024.
I see. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And sorry, going back to what you talked about before about the community engagement or engaged community with digital skills, do you what do you have any kind of examples of what you've been doing with communities, just for maybe some of the audience back home? Let's say for me, if you were telling about how you've engaged with certain farmers to help with X, Y, and Z, then that'll be useful for me to then take forward to other schools, for example. So I wonder if you have any digital skill examples that you've done with different communities.
I'm aware of two projects that colleagues of mine in the UNISA SBL are doing. They are more specifically on entrepreneurship, on small to medium enterprises. This is more on innovation on enterprises. It's not necessarily strictly digital skills. The digital skills one is the one that will be launching in 2024. So currently, no, there isn't any digital skills related project in the UNISA SBL. That's the reason we are launching this one in 2024.
I see. And so because you launched in 2024, has there been almost like a cry out for it? Have you realized there's a bit of a gap in the market, as in maybe a lot of the other workforce need to improve digital skills, and that's why you created it?
Absolutely. In fact, the reason why we created this project is because we engaged with the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. This is a ministry, a government ministry in South Africa that's responsible for digital transformation, the AI strategy, the digital transformation strategy of South Africa. So they have a couple of projects going on in the country, the entire country. We had a couple of email exchanges with them. We are planning to have a face-to-face meeting with them. But the engagements we had with them were actually the catalyst to us developing this or crafting this digital skills project. They told us that there's a lot of digital hubs that they are setting up, but as a government entity, obviously they can't do these things alone. They need civil society help, they need private sector industry help. And of course, we as universities, as I said, one of our pillars is engaged scholarship. We thought, let's play our part. Let's use community engagement or engaged scholarship to contribute towards that. So yes, there's definitely a huge demand for basic digital skills, examples of which I've given, such as we now know that CVs are being screened by basic AI tools, especially in the private sector of South Africa. So if you've got 1,000 or more unemployed graduates that don't know how to tailor make CVs for efficiency, for being able to be screened by AI, that becomes a problem. As if you recall, the session we had in Edinburgh, Scotland, I think one of your colleagues touched on this aspect, and in fact, he presented on some of the tips that can be imparted on business schools, but for that matter, in business schools for our students as part of graduate attributes. So we're taking some of these skills to the communities, but as I said, for us, we are pained at the level of unemployed graduates in South Africa. So those are the people we are targeting more, but we're not forgetting youth and women business owners who obviously, in order for them to benefit in this increasingly digital economy, they also need to be capacitated. They need to know how to market their services and products digitally on social media. They need to know how search engine optimization, for example, works on Facebook for their products and services to rank high up there. These are things that you and I and probably our MBA students take for granted because we are computer literate and we are digital literate. But the masses out there in developing countries such as South Africa aren't necessarily savvy with these technologies. Hence, we want to play our part in assisting the government ministry of digital technologies in South Africa to help contribute in upskilling a whole lot of these women and youth, and of course, unemployed graduates.
Definitely. Like it goes back to, I'll say 20 odd years ago when computers started becoming more prevalent in society. They decided that, well, everyone has to become computer literate. And since then, we've seen how, instrumental it's been to businesses, to education, to even communicating over Facebook for your friends. And this is like the next stage, isn't it? Is getting people better at AI, better at digital technologies in order to push their business forward and, of course, improve their livelihoods.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, because you touched a bit on kind of consulting then. And I know, Mark, you were saying a bit before that you're planning to do some consulting in the future. So physically working with businesses and SMEs or larger corporations is it to implement AI or just to consult on different aspects?
Yeah, I think with all types of consulting from the academic part, depending on how you organize, you have to be careful what you deliver. I think it's easy to give policy, strategy, guidelines. That's usually doable. So coming myself from a consultancy background for at least 7-8 years in Canada, I have that experience. So the danger of sometimes those who are less experienced are a bit too ambitious on the consultancy. We have to be careful as academics, unless you have experience in the whole change management implementation, and you can't especially with AI, you can't underestimate that aspect of it. So doing pure consultancy where you really change a process and you're part of the implementation, the training, and making sure there's an ROI and there's a real return on it, it's another ball game. We got to be careful to get into that. So unless I have a faculty who's really experienced in that, I don't go that deep. It's too risky. And it's like setting up. I've been involved a lot in set up ERPs and things like this. You're getting to software, changing processes. You can put a business to ground if it's not successful. You got to be careful with this. So we're really hesitant to do consultancy unless someone is really knowledgeable, has experience. So I think the approach for academics usually is more to work with a strong industry partner that have developed, that have experience. And what we try to bring on the academic side is more of a global best practice we might capture in other regions where these companies might be just local. We can apply things that provide ideas that are being used across other industries and how we can apply it here. But going to pure consultancy, I think in any discipline from the academy side, we have to be careful when you touch really the operations. I also have it on the supply chain operations management part. So because I've done a lot of it, I know the pitfalls. And even when you're a full-time consultancy company, the success rate is not 100%. There's a lot of risk. So you gotta be careful to do it, especially with this big unknown of AI. And so I would shy away from the big consulting where you would really change seriously business process, and then it's kind of like a go no go, maybe pilot runs if the organization does have extra resources, where they can isolate areas and they could do some testing, more like an R&D. So my answer, it just depends on the type of consultation, which a lot of places they'll consider training as a consultation, but for me it's two separate things. The training and involvement, consultation for me, it's really more when you go and do, in the eye is you will change processes to look at their ROI and really have a different offering on the market.
Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting the difference you were saying just then, because I know you were saying, although you might be looking to consult in the future, at the moment your AI Management Institute school is more, of course, workshops to educate people. You're not telling them what to change, you're merely just saying this is what we recommend doing. And so I guess that's kind of to people at home is, okay, if you want to upskill the local workforce in the region, maybe workshops is the best way, just more of the formal education, as opposed to going and telling people what to do. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's changing so quickly, this is the thing. Things are changing so quickly. So unless you're in the industry and you're really on this 100%, or again, have a big team on the university side, have a real research center with a real link to the industry. Maybe Fawzi has a much bigger organization. For us, we're very small, so I would not go there, except for advising in general policies and going to implementation, serious implementation. It's just too risky for them and for us too. But I would not do it for the organizations. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you, Mark. Masiko, so you got a question?
Yes, thanks, Ben. Mark, I've got a follow-up question. Given your experience then in consulting, would you say it's a good idea in a business school setting for your academics to consult privately in order to keep relevant and not become traditional academics?
Yes. Like I say, we're like a startup. We're only 10 years. We're growing. I would say the first 6 or 7 years of the institution was mainly a teaching school. Now, because of the directions of the ministry, last, I would say, since the 2019 standards that changed 4 or 5 years ago, there's a lot more emphasis on research. We went from about 10 publications when I arrived 2018. Now we had 60 this year. So the trend towards research is big. And the next stage now we're getting into is that other link is having impact, not just the research impact, is the industry impact. And we need to get those profiles. So I think it doesn't make sense to have a business school without having some faculty who can really make an impact with consulting. But for us, it's just we're not there yet. We're in a growth, and with 20 faculties, 4 programs, the requirement here in the UAE, this I think it depends on the region. Anybody teaching in the master program must have a PhD in the specialization, not near, in the specialization. Then either strong research background or strong industry background. So it's either or. If you can have all 3, that's perfect, but you need the PhD. So it's hard to get, for us hiring here, it's hard to get someone with a PhD in the area with a strong industry experience to come on board as a faculty member. For economic reasons, it's not super attractive for those profiles. So you almost have to have those who enjoy the academics. We're being creative with some profiles of faculty where they're not doing a lot of the services. They'll do a lot of the research, they'll do the teaching, and they liberate some time which they can stay on their own in the industry to do their industry work, which brings a lot into the classroom and through the university that they can go and do consultancy. But the business model in this region, it's not mature. It's still growing and developing, where in other parts of the world, this type of profile of faculty, like in Canada or North America, it's very common. And you know which faculty is a industry focus, you know which one is your research. But in the operation supply chain, where I was in Canada, well, we had about 25 faculty in that area. Now we're 2. So 2 supply chain, 1 in marketing, 1 in finance, 2 in HR, 1 in strategy. So it's hard to get all of those skills when you're small like this. That's our challenge. But definitely, it's part of our plans. We are opening an undergrad program. We got accepted for the undergrad new program, which is starting in the spring term. So that will generate, again, a bit more growth, more faculty, and then we'll be able to do this. But I think it depends on your local. I don't know how it is in your region, but for here in the UAE, academics playing a role of consultancy or getting even funds from private sector, it's not common. It's just starting a little bit. It's on an individual basis, not really institutional, unless you're a really renowned, strong university with a lot of networking. It's not the common practice to have industry look towards academics for some consulting. Training, I think, is fine, but even then, it's not mature in that sense. So I personally know it because I've done it somewhere else, and we're going in that path. But right now, for here, I don't think the market is there to do it as easy. You really have to sell. For instance, the personal type I did is you basically do it for free. You go out, you say, I'm going to do this. With the result, then you can contribute, financially to the institution based on the result, just to show a little bit, the hesitant, how the market might be hesitant to go to the academic side for consultancy. And it's a quite competitive, I think, market. There's a lot of consultancy firms here and different levels, obviously, of quality there. But in a nutshell, it's just not mature as other international markets where universities are much bigger and have very strong units on how to deliver the whole contracts, the responsibility, and having a lot of skills inside of faculty who have experience who are in industry, they're in academics, and they go back in industry and they know how to do it well. For us, it's just we're too young. That's the but the potential is there. There's definitely a huge potential, and there's a gap. I think that we can provide. So yeah, I totally agree with you, and we're hoping in the near future we can do more.
Yeah. So I guess in the meantime, Mark, is there anything else that AGSM could do to support maybe startups, not like consultant to the side? Is it more the formal education, or is it, could you set up an incubator just to kind of give them the space to work as a startup? Is there anything else you think?
Yes, even though, yeah, with the startups, because our MBA is differentiated a little bit with it has kind of like a startup component to it, which might not sound too innovative, but it's just the sequence of the course or sequence in an order to go along with what you would do in a startup. So your MBA is already towards there. It has nothing to do with the AI, but it's really to help the students start a company. And we had the plan to have an incubator. We've delayed it because of other projects, but the goal is to have an incubator really specialized for the context of our students, which is not, I would say, a standard, copy paste incubator from somewhere else, because of the students, their context and their challenges. They have different needs. So that's our next phase. But in the region, they're growing a lot, but still it's not a mature market. Since I've been here 13 years now, it's changed enormously. I remember just the e-commerce when I arrived, there was basically no e-commerce, no sales online. After 4 or 5 years, it was all cash on delivery. You would order online. People would only pay cash when the product was delivered. That was only like 7, 8 years ago. And now it's basically everybody using credit cards online, and it's like normal. But the change has been quite drastic. So the whole startup is still young, very young. They're popping up left and right. But I think for us as a small institution, if we want to grow, I need to work a lot on collaborations, which we're doing. But again, that requires a lot of energy to outsource a lot of these functions if you want to implement it quickly. Yeah, we can connect with incubators here, summit across for the faculty to deliver on research and consultancy. That's what we're doing now. We have a lot of MOUs with universities in Montreal and HEC Montreal, Georgia Tech in the US, Schema in France, working with Hong Kong, UT, ITMO. And so that the purpose is to get these resources to deliver. But these are relationships that you need to maintain. You need to communicate. You need to put faculty on this. It's still not easy, all of this outsourcing. So we're trying to go quick, but you got to control it. You want to have quality also. So yes, I think we can. We're trying to do these partnerships to try to get more resources than to hire.
Definitely. Thanks, Mark. And well, speaking of supporting startups, I know Fauzi, you mentioned a little bit about how you support startups. So, when you can give us a little bit more information about how you do it, and is it digital technology specific, and also is it just in Tunisia or outside of Tunisia?
Yes, a very good question, Mark. Actually, in Tunisia, there has been the Startup Act of 2018. It was the first in Africa. And I think the Startup Act has paved the way to a very vibrant entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem in Tunisia. So there is a lot of facilities for startups in terms of capital investment, in terms of training, incubation, etc. Also in Tunisia, there are many innovation hubs and incubators to support AI startups and entrepreneurs. You see, in Tunisia, if we look to an example, I don't know if you are familiar with InstaDeep. InstaDeep is really a true success story in Tunisia, which was acquired by BioNTech later for a record, I think, around 400 million euro. And this success story has inspired many other Tunisians basically to pursue the same. As you know, in Tunisia, in addition to the Startup Act and the innovation hubs, we put a lot of emphasis on mathematics since high school. And everybody knows if you want to succeed, especially in machine learning and artificial intelligence, having a strong background in math is a prerequisite. And that's why in other countries where math kind of is a very light, we always got difficulties basically to prepare students in the AI field in particular. So in Tunisia, that problem about the mathematical skill is a plus for us, okay? So we don't have incubator as such. We are trying to basically engage our students, especially in the projects. So in our curriculum for every year, they have what we call integrated project. Integrated project is kind of a course, but basically it's a project where they team up together and they work on a specific project. And the project is basically not from the instructor, scratching his head, but these projects are proposed by our partner, not university, by our partner enterprise. So we work with them to give us real life problems that the students can work on. What is surprising, we have found out that students often, they get inspired by this type of projects, and it will trigger their curiosity maybe to take it further and to embark on a startup adventure. So so we have very few students who went to creating their own enterprise. To be honest with you, at the School of Business, it's mainly not towards AI for the moment, but towards anything related to digital innovations. So platforms, web platforms, recommended systems platform, and I think eventually, once you get this level of going into the digital world, the AI is just the extra layer that will come on the top of it eventually later on. But as I said before, the idea is how to motivate the students to work on real life projects, how to engage them, as Mark said, in the process of scientific inquiry.
Yeah.
How to do research in AI. Because the problem is often we give our students a problem that we know already the solution, and we will try just to see if they can make it or not. But letting the student embark on a project that is vague by nature, and I think it's a key today, okay, to basically prepare the next generation of entrepreneurs. Because if you're doing entrepreneurs, you're going to embark on projects sometimes are unique, not explored by others, and there is a lot of uncertainty. So this is what we are trying today to do, is how to basically put research and teaching as basically not two separate activity. We have what we call teaching inspired research, where basically our research will basically inspire our teaching. I give you an example. In marketing today, we are looking in how generative AI will influence the marketing of tomorrow. And we have research team that is looking to this aspect. By doing so, what we hope is that the result, we will build capacity on the usage of generative AI for marketing that eventually will go into our teaching through the modules, and then we will train our students on how to use generative AI, whether for marketing or finance, etc. So we see this permeable boundary between research and teaching, which is the key for basically triggering the future entrepreneur. Because future entrepreneur, the risk is not just financial, but there is ideas and there are risks to take, because you don't know most of the time where you're going to end up with solution or not. We tell our faculty, do not spoon feed the students in a project, keep them in the dark, and just when you see them, they are drowning, then you give them a bit, okay, read this article, as opposed to giving them, here are what you have to go. You do A, B, C, something in French, we call it cahier de charge, that I hate.
Yeah.
Because it kills innovation. It just tells them, okay, here it is, A, B, C, D, and that's the project. These are the requirements. When you do entrepreneurship projects, sometimes even the requirements are not even clear for you, and you have to make assumptions. You got to make trials, and even if you fail, we don't ask students basically at the end of the day to have something working. I have one student who work on a project, and the solution was he followed an AI approach, and the solution was it wasn't useful. So and that's a result by itself. We don't say it's not good as the previous, then you fail. No, that's already the fact to find out that using this type of algorithm to solve this problem ended up not to be as good as others. Already for us, it's realizations, and we have to tell our students that there is no one solution to a particular problem. You know, this is true or false. Let them imagine. I give you an example, Ben, about the hackathon. The hackathon or the competitions that we have been doing at Esprit School of Business. We have found that these hackathons are extremely useful. It's a win-win solutions between the business school and our partners. The idea is our partners basically will come with a theme. Last semester, for instance, we have a master program in fintech, digital finance, and we have a company named I forgot FinLogic. Okay, so they brought basically this hackathon under the theme AI in finance.
Okay,
and we have the students, you know, spending the night here at Esprit over the weekends and competing to do something about this topic and presenting it to a jury composed of the company itself and some our faculty, and they are attracted also by the prizes because we have top 3 prizes. Okay, but you know, it's a win-win. It allows our students to work on something, to be motivated to work in a team. For the company, they use it sometimes to tap to the best students, because at the end of the day, when you have 8 teams, 6 each, 48 students presenting, okay, sometimes most of our students end up basically with opportunity for recruitments. And we have done the same thing with our research team on sustainable development. We tell our students, look, we're gonna launch a hackathon with prizes. It's a 48 hours, 72 hours, so they sleep at night here. And you focus on one of the UN 17 SDGs, show us how AI basically can be used for that. And we have students from engineering, from the business schools working together. Not together, unfortunately, today we have the engineering school working, the business working towards solutions. What we hope in the future is to make up multidisciplinary teams. In other words, if I can have a team that is composed of engineering and business students working together, that will be our aspiration for the future. Again, you know, we have to go beyond the classrooms and the teaching in the classrooms. You know, all this extracurricular activity, hackathon, competition, I think they will basically trigger the curiosity and the interest of our students basically to take it further.
Definitely. And so, sorry, just before I move on to Sika's got a question. With the hackathon, Fauzi, is it only for students in Tunisia, or is it around North Africa, or is it worldwide, or is it just within the region?
Okay, for the it depends. For the internet, for the artificial intelligence in finance, it was dedicated to basically a particular program, a class. But for the hackathon on AI for UN Sustainable Development Goals, it was open to all the university in Tunisia. It has to be face-to-face because the people have to come. And I can tell you, I have people who drove 300 kilometers to come over to Tunis and the capital to participate. Young generations who want to compete, they want to maybe add this in their CVs, hoping basically that they will be shortlisted among the winning teams. And we do offer some prizes for that.
Definitely. And I guess the win-win also being that the actual company that set up the hackathon, will get that information from the students and potentially use that as a project themselves. So it's almost like free consulting, you could say.
It's much better than reading CV, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
When you can see the students and you can question them and you see their presentation skills, and it's yeah,
The
it's a
ultimate
shortcut.
interview.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Masika, I see you got a question?
Yes, thank you, Ben. Yeah, Fauzi, this is a follow-up question to what you were saying. It's an interesting aspect, the hackathon you spoke about. So part of the mandate of a business school is obviously to create business leaders and managers in corporates and what have you. So my question is, how is your relationship, if any, with your school of engineering and computer science and so on, given the fact that the profile of MBA students aren't necessarily only technical students, as you said I think it was Mark in his opening presentation. Say you've got a non-technical student interested in entrepreneurship in your MBA program. They want to set up a startup. They don't have the necessary AI, machine learning, technical skills. My point here is a collaboration with your School of Engineering and Computer Science could fill that gap. Do you have any relationship within the university with your School of Engineering, Computer Science, and so on?
Yes, thank you, Masiki. To be honest with you, it's ongoing. Finding the synergy between the two schools have been one of our most top strategic priorities. What we have done so far is that our research teams, basically, we have research teams that includes faculty members from both schools. So in terms of faculty research, they are working together on some research topic in AI in particular. We have a bachelor degree in business computing, and many of our students who finish the bachelor degree in business computing, eventually some of them, they will go to our engineering school to earn an engineering degree. Today, we are investigating the possibility of offering a dual degree programs in business and engineering. In other words, students will have 2 degrees, one in a bachelor in management, and also a master degree in engineering as well. So there is a lot of opportunities, and as I said before, our vision is, especially for the hackathon, we would like in the future that they work together, so that the business students bring his own perspective and the engineering students, and this is how basically teams ideally will work at. So we are looking at that. It's our vision, hopefully, if we can have that full synergy.
Definitely. And it's an interesting question, CK, because Kanita from UWC says, as a current researcher at the Department of Research and Innovation at UWC, I would suggest a possible collaboration to assist in realizing some of the SDG and objectives by involving stakeholders such as heads, departments, students, and proposed research initiatives. So yeah, thank you, Kanita, for that. And that's kind of similar to what you were just talking about then.
Absolutely. Yes. We'll be very open to collaborate on any project, basically, in this perspective. We are signatories of the principle of responsible management educations. We put a lot of focus on how to include SDGs in our research and teaching. So and that's why, again, I mentioned when we talk about AI, we should never forget the other aspect, the non-technical aspect, the responsibility, the responsibility, the ethical part, and the legal part, because it's very, very important today. Sometimes we deal with a project that involve enterprise and our students, and for us, protecting the intellectual property right for our enterprises is a key. Sometimes the students, basically, they got access to ideas, they got access to data, and they should be basically trained on how to deal with the various ethical dimensions, basically, when embarking on such a project. So very important, I think, and I think in the future, it's going to be even a bigger debate with the generative AI and all this responsibility and ethical considerations.
Yeah. And speaking of ethical considerations of AI, what do you think your school could do to promote, well, the ideas around it being ethical with AI to the local workforce? Could that be done through maybe a webinar or promoting your research or free workshops? I was wondering what your take on that.
Well, first of all, I think on both schools, we do have courses in AI and ethics and AI ethics. So for, we cover the ethical philosophies, whatever, but most importantly is to let the students reflect upon, the implication of AI. So just sitting back and giving them basically what we call the ethical dilemma. So it's always, a story. You are here, this is an autonomous car driving, and then a pedestrian, you just cross. Should the car hit the pedestrian or save the passengers? Who's going to be blamed on what? Just the act of reflecting upon that, I think, is very important. However, for academic integrity and etc., we are trying to right now convey to the students an articulated policy about where we stand today vis-a-vis the usage of ChatGPT and generative AI. What is a load? What is not a load? When it is a load? We do respect the academic freedom, so we don't impose anything on our faculty, but there are some guidelines, and it is up to the faculty basically to articulate to the students, okay, the expectations, because I think the task is going to be even harder in the future, especially for the projects and the capstone projects, how to make sure that the students make best use of these tools in an ethical and responsible way. And we have many initiatives. We have set up task forces to look into how to integrate these tools into the classroom, especially how to assess the students. So one of the things that we have been proposed is that if a student at the end of the day, he can present his work on a blackboard, okay, and explain it. All right, that's for us is the most important thing. Okay, besides using the generative AI, whatever, but we don't want, as Mark mentioned before, that this exercise will be a Control-C, Control-V exercise. Okay, a shortcut basically to finish work. All right, and we have done an empirical study to assess the perception and attitudes of students towards ChatGPT, including, this plagiarism, and we find out that students themselves are not aware of some of the what is plagiarism and what is not. Some of them, they feel it is okay. Some of them feel that weak students are more likely to plagiarize, and maybe that is okay. And the question is, should we penalize students if the university did not articulate a policy and the procedures on the usage? Is it ethical to penalize the students if we didn't tell them that it is not allowed? So there is a lot of implication, I think, a lot of homework that we have to do. And I think by the end of the day, on our website, there should be a clear statement. This is where we stand today. Yep. And we communicated. Next month, we are organizing a debate where we're going to invite students, employers, and faculty members to debate on the usage of these tools in educations, but also at work later on.
Definitely. Marcus, you got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that because it's definitely one area where we're all, as dean and managers have to deal with this. We've just gone through a lot of reaccreditations of programs, institutions. So obviously they look at all your policies, all the 140 some policies we have. So there's quite a bit of them. And this one we have to update. So this transparency and the ethics on our part, we had to adjust all the policies for the AI usage. And it totally changed the way the policy we had. And it's a little bit like what was just mentioned is, unfortunately, they're going to use it. It's very hard to, and we're all aware of even the issues of outsourcing and ghostwriters, which has been there for a long time. So on top of that, you got the layer of the AI, and you have the ghostwriters being business people. They use the AI, and So it so basically we have some clear guidelines, and even though the Turnitin will give you an AI indicator, there is, for example, a part in our policy where the faculty, if there's any suspicions for any of this factor, we call the student in. They do a interactive discussion with the faculty, 10 minutes. It's recorded. And if the faculty feels that the student does not know at all, it's clear that they haven't write it. It's a clear failure. The consequence is heavier than before in our policy, to say, look, we're giving you more rope, more tools to use, but if you're not too sure, come to see us. And if you do cross the line, the consequences are quite severe. But it's not an easy one. A lot of students are, they're contesting these things. But in the end, yes, we want to make them able to use the tool in the workplace. But the priority now in education is for them to learn the skills and the content and the knowledge, not to use it in the education. So we're caught a little bit in between. We can't totally deny it. And if we don't do this, what I see other universities are doing, some are taking that path, is they're going backwards, where all assessments are handwritten, in class presentations. And it's like, it's an easy way to solve the problem, but I don't think it's the right way to do it. But some are doing this, they're going back and saying, no more this, no more computer, handwritten. And so I think, yes, these guidelines and ethics are really important. But at the beginning, I was feeling a lot of people were saying, oh, no, we'll ban this. And everybody's realizing, well, we can't. You can't. So might as well learn how to live with it, like the ghostwriting, which is another issue. So yeah, it just adds another layer of these things to validate and see. But I think there's some solution. I think the majority are not abusing it, but there's always a minority who would try to cut corners, and that's what we got to write the policies for, basically.
Definitely, yeah. Well, sorry, just on that topic before we go to a question with CK, there's a few comments actually in the Q&A about, will AI erode intellectualism, critical analysis, and the quality of education? And then there's this good comment from Ali here saying, using AI tools like ChatGPT has sparked considerable debate within academic circles. While some universities actively promote the integration of AI tools, others are cautious, expressing concerns that such tools might overshadow human intellectual contributions. It is essential for higher education institutions worldwide, particularly in research, to establish a unified ethical standard for implementing AI tools. This will ensure a balanced and ethical approach to utilization, fostering a harmonious synergy between AI-driven capabilities and human ingenuity. So very similar to what you and Fauzi were just saying then, is that, like you say, that it's such a minefield of what should you do, what shouldn't you do, but trying to find a unified approach across maybe the region or the world to find out what we can and can't do is going to take a lot of practice and time.
Yeah, maybe it'll be an AI tool for this, But definitely, with the cultures being really different, I'm kind of a bit fortunate because our institution is really almost like unicultural. But the previous institution I was in Dubai, we had over 80 nationalities in our students, and depending where students are coming from, they have a different view of what is ethical, what is not ethical, and the culture. So it's hard to do something unified globally that satisfies everybody's view on ethics, right? It's always the same debate. But at least if you can have it for your institution and it's clear, that already would be a good step.
Definitely. And sorry, to go back to Masiki, you had a question earlier before I butt in. Apologies about that.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ben. I wanted to chip in on this one and then give a different perspective. Generally, I agree with you, Mark and Fauzi, on the use of let's say Tenidin, because both of you mentioned Tenidin. But here's a different angle. you've got the non-native speakers of the English language using generative AI to, I suppose, correct the grammar, shape the sentences and paragraphs into a cohesive, logically flowing article, so to speak. They submit it to Tenidin. Obviously, Tenidin will mark it as 99% similarity index to whatever the case might be. So what I'm trying to highlight here is that this is a tough one, because even OpenAI pulled their own similarity index detector tool, because it cannot be accurate currently. It isn't. Even Tenidin isn't accurate.
No, it's
it
not.
cannot be accurate.
Yeah.
But even if it was, for argument's sake, the example I've just given, where somebody legitimately did their work 100%, but they are not a native speaker of the English language. They used one of these AI chatbots to straighten up the grammar. Right. Obviously, the detector will say it was generated by AI. Correctly so, it was generated by AI, except that in this case, AI only played the role of English grammar corrector, so to speak. So it's a tough one.
I know it depends what you're assessing. You know, that's the part. You know, in their rubrics, and if you're assessing their ability to write, then I would kind of penalize. If you're not assessing this, and they're all coming in with a good level of English, 6.0 IELTS or whatever English requirement, then you don't want. Then that's where the interview, that's where the judgment of faculty comes in. That okay, the indicator is high. Let's have a short conversation. If they know what they're talking about, it's clear they've written. There's no penalty. We just want to make sure that they didn't use it the wrong way. But when they have no clue, you know, and some of the AIs sometimes generate some strange language also. It's not always perfect, so you can see if there's not been, if this pops up. But I can't say exactly how. I know some of the tools, maybe some of you know, but some of them are using the output of the ChatGPT, putting in another software which cleans this detection. So some of them, they know how to get around this. But I think it comes down, because it's just so hard, like you say, to prove legally that this come out of an AI tool or not. It's not like they turned it in where you can see the references. It's very hard to have a proof that this was AI. So that's why we divert to this. And the faculty, they can also play the safe side and say, well, I'm not going to bring anybody in. I'll just close my eyes. But they are monitored. The course files we have are monitored also. And if they do overlook, and some detections are high, they'll be responsible for this. So they can't just overlook it also. Yeah. But it's not easy, you know, to monitor this. I agree with you. Yeah, these are just ideas we're going to grow through it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking just then, you're very much focused on like the assessment side of maybe using AI, especially it sounds like Grammarly is one of the big ones out there that go through your work and make it more grammar correct. And like, I guess an assessment, like you said, Mark, it depends on what you're assessing. Absolutely. But let's say if you take it to the workplace, say in my job, if I was using Grammarly to write the perfect email, that's probably advantageous and probably not. I wouldn't say taboo personally. So I don't know what your opinions are on that. Is using AI in the workplace is beneficial, but then there's only so much you can probably utilize it before it just becomes irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's case by case. You know, if I'm the manager in an organization and I make it clear to the employee, if I don't make it clear, but if I make it clear, I can have the opinion, look, my employee, I know it's not their writing, but they can do twice the amount of work if they use this. Yeah. My use of my resources are more efficient. It's not their exact words. Or, you know, you might have another strategy where you're not in this financial pressures and you want to make sure that your employees are at a high level of communication and they do it on their own. So when they go with their clients, they're at that level. because when you start using these tools, it's like a lot of us, when we start writing, my handwriting is not like it used to be. I'm typing all the time. So when you don't use, you lose, right? So if you start using this AI tool a lot, the Grammarly, you lose your ability to write well, and it has some negative effects in other parts of your communication and facing employees. So I think it's just case by case. What's most important is the sufficiency, the quality, the knowledge. As long as the employer is clear with the employee of what's allowed, not allowed, and the why, I think we can't generalize what's going to happen in the workplace. For the good employee, of course, there's always some that are going to try to cut the corners and try to do their jobs in 3 hours and have more free time at work. So
I see. So would you say that, Mark, that in your AI management institute, when you're doing this workshops, let's say with hospitals, that there's some technologies you would advise are good and some maybe not so much? Like you said, if you're using Grammarly all the time, you then lose your ability to write correctly. So, for example, that's not as beneficial as maybe another software which can automate better.
Yeah, I think it's just the awareness. I wouldn't want to make judgments for them. Say, look, this is what can happen. These are consequences, and it's your organization to decide what is the priority, the strategy. But at least they're aware of what you can use and what's the impact of those usage. And then it's comes down to a lot of this strategizing. The strategy of the organization. But there's always a compromise. It's like there are calculators. Some of the young kids, I can tell you, try to have them do some mathematics, multiplication, division, and all this. It's normal, but they could do a lot more. So it all depends. It's important or not. That's why I would not impose in this training judgments, but what's the implication of using some of these tools?
Definitely, yeah. Like you said, if you don't use it, you lose it. And the whole fact of the calculator, I find interesting. I was told when I was at school that you'll never have a calculator in your pocket.
Can't use
which was just before the iPhones came out and the other phones, which is funny.
Not the scientific one. You can have the regular one, but not the scientific calculator. That one's too good. It does the equations for you and all that.
I know it's bad, and now Excel does absolutely everything for you. It's, but like you say, it's almost learning a new technology, and that's why you don't have to know exactly how to do the maths, but if you know how to use certain functions in, let's say, Excel, to make it simple, you can do. You can almost be an accountant, and that's what I guess, going back to what you said earlier, CK, is trying to get the workforce to understand digital skills is probably the first stage, I imagine, in the journey to AI.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yes, absolutely. And for me, the way I see it, colleagues, obviously there's no way to tell what the future holds, but my view is that these things are tools. Let me give you another scenario. We currently know that machine learning algorithms pretty much do things on the stock market. Now, are you going to say traders shouldn't use machine learning to do their work because they're going to lose the skills of doing what do they call it, fundamental research of the market to predict which share is going to perform better than the others? All that amount of data, machine learning does it in seconds, and it predicts, predictive analytics. So for me, the way I see it, we're just grappling with these tools because we are on a change management curve, basically. Maybe we are experiencing denial, but the reality is these tools are not going anywhere. We cognitively just have to get used to working with them ethically and responsibly. That's basically, for me, the core of it, ethical AI. But we cannot turn them off. We can't pause them. Someone somewhere out there will always advance these base models behind machine learning and deep learning. So we just have to get used to making use of these tools the same way we made use of Excel and computers and calculators, as you mentioned. That's my view on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, yeah, I'm glad you said Masike, because I was about to ask all the panelists on their final take on what a business school could do to help upskill the local population on AI. And what you said there, Masike, is absolutely, yeah, bang on. It's interesting to hear all those aspects. And then for Fauzi, I'm wondering, as we're approaching the end of the session, if you have any kind of like final words, or to summarize the question from your point of view.
Well, I think AI, maybe the recent advances took us by surprise. Honestly, I don't think higher education institutions
Yes.
were ready for that. So I can say that probably
Yeah.
today we are in a reactive mode, trying to understand, what's happening and how we're going to react. But definitely the future is in AI, huge opportunities for business schools, basically to, get ready, for the futures, for the jobs of the 2030s and 2050s. I think the opportunities in terms of jobs creations and value creations are enormous in the future, not only locally, as I mentioned before, but we look at the job market as, it's the globe. So I think we have to be in the leading edge of this. For business schools, I think the fact that we are business schools, it doesn't basically prohibit us from stepping into this field of AI. So this is not, the field of just computer science and engineering. I think when we talk about big data, data analytics, and business computing, etc. So we have to be basically on the leading edge. We need to prepare and basically revamp our curricula. When we started at Esprit School of Business, everything is digital. So we have digital marketing, we have, but I think now from the digital, the first phase were basically to prepare students to be the change maker of tomorrow in terms of digital transformation. So that's what the idea, a lot of emphasis about ERP, information systems, strategic use of IS. With AI, I think there is another extra layer that I think my colleague talked about today that we're going to add, okay, which is the intelligence aspect. And we got to be, okay, a major player into that in our curricula. But also there are people who are working already and they haven't even heard about AI. And I think it is our responsibility to tap into those people, because if they don't get ready for AI, I'm sure they're going to be left behind. And this is what enterprises are telling us, how to upskill their existing workforce to make best usage today of data. And therefore, we think that having these work study programs, people study, they are working, but they can come back on a weekend or whatever, study again. Or we are working on what we call micro certificates. You see, a program of 2 years for the working people is like a marathon.
Yeah.
Micro certificates, like quick and dirty things, that it's a programs, okay, dedicated to one aspect of AI, tailored to the need of the enterprise, that we can offer to working individuals. And at the end of the day, they will end up with a certificate. And today with digital technologies, they don't have to be physically present here, so we can offer them online or hybrid mode. So I think there is a lot of work to be done, but I think AI is the future for Africa, is the future of the world. And I know that for the next 20 years, in Europe in particular, there is a very huge demand basically for trained professional on AI. And I'm sure that Africa is very well positioned to fill up the gap, because I know even with the population, and the aging population in Europe and in many countries, there is a need for this youth generation basically to, to be there and fill up the gap.
Definitely. Thank you, Fauzi. And yeah, to kind of summarize what you say then, it's about, micro credentials, bringing them in for weekends, just trying to tell the workforce that AI can be for good. There's a lot of scaremongering and people worrying about what it could be. But I think it's important to focus on what it can do to help you to progress your company. So thank you, Fauzi. And then, Mark, do you have any final comments on essentially asks the question is how a business school can help upskill the local population on AI technologies.
No, I don't think I have anything new. I think we pretty much touched everything. I think the thing saying that it's a bit unknown and we're catching up. I think this chat GP, when it came out, I think everybody was saying, is this real? You know, is this really happening? And we're all catching up still. So I think, yeah, we're on this mode, but we have to address it. And I think the general outlook here is positive on it. And I think now we're getting close to being on top. And as a business school, you know, we're teaching our students how to manage better, and this will help them manage better. So I think it's just a growth progressive, and it's just going to be part of all courses and all curriculums very soon. But now we're still in this new phase.
Of course, definitely. And you know, just to summarize and write some notes, essentially what I've heard from the past 2 hours is that we all advocate AI and we want to just ensure that people understand how good it is. And then also, it's like you said, it's not, you know, what it is, because you said the technicals are very difficult on exactly what the algorithm's doing, but how to use it, if I've understood correctly. And that's where business schools can play a really strong part in, is showing the local population, of course, students and graduates as well, the local population, to show how you can use these technologies, and also the main thing as well, use it ethically.
Yep.
We have understood correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, for responsible management, which plays a huge part, of course, in the BGA as well. Definitely. Okay, so any other final comments from our panelists? We have no other questions, and we're approaching now the 2-hour mark, so it's been it's absolutely flown by these past 2 hours. But any final comments or recommendations to the rest of African Middle Eastern world?
Yes, sure. From my side, Ben, I would like to say business schools indeed are well suited knowledge hubs and learning centers to teach AI, I would say, productively and efficiently, because we obviously teach through case studies. And my view is we should emphasize more societal impact by shaping our curriculum to be more engaged, as we call it, engaged scholarship, rather than too theoretical. And we should forge, unfortunately, in order for us as business schools to understand the ethical and responsible use of AI, we must first understand the technical side. Therefore, I would, in closing, say we should try to forge relationships with our sister departments in engineering and schools of engineering and schools of computer science to be able to see through how we can create better business leaders and better managers as business schools, whilst at the same time understanding the technical background of AI, because I don't think you can teach responsible use of AI if you don't understand its fundamentals. Not necessarily deeply from an engineering perspective, but just to understand how the models works and so on. Yes, that's where I'll leave it. But we are better suited as business schools. Over to you.
Definitely. Thank you, CK. Okay, so that's basically all the time we have for today. Thank you so much to Mark, Fauzi, and CK for your amazing insights into AI technologies, into how it can work in the African Middle East, as well as provide some very interesting, tangible examples of how you can implement this into society. And for anyone as well who's still watching, all of this is going to be recorded, of course, so you can watch this back at a later date to find out any more information. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to email BJ at myself or Mark, Fauzi, and the CK. They're all on LinkedIn as well, so feel free to connect with them later on.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure for us to be part of this panel.
And good luck to everybody with AI.
Yeah, don't be scared.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you, panelists, and
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Great rest of the day. Bye now.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.